Good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to another video. My name's Gray, your one and only Corrupted Angel, and today we're talking about part 2 of the Rune drama, but this time not about the event itself, but rather about the people that went to it. What do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. There was a lot of, I guess, things that you should really understand about the event, and that is mainly that it is a yearly event, so you have some degree of expectation there. You know what is going to be the case when it comes to the prizes for the most part, and usually speaking, you know the quality of the prizes for the most part. Some years, it changes up a little bit, but nevertheless, last year there was a reveal of prize, which was the persons that came last as a team and second last as a team were given out rewards, as you normally see in regular Warhammer events. These are the coveted wooden spoons. The losers of an event get them, and it's really, really cool. I really like that. I think it's really funny because it's a really crappy reward where you just get a stupid wooden spoon that you can cook your meal with or whatever, make some pasta, I don't know. But regardless, it is a thing that you get. Now, last year at Runax, we had a similar situation where there was these prizes, like I mentioned, but unlike the usual wooden spoon that you would see regularly occurring in most Warhammer events, they instead got glasses, and I'm not talking any old glasses, I'm talking a nice whiskey glass and a pint-style flagged type glass. I don't really know the technical term for them, regardless of that fact. They got really nice glasses. And this was something that I think a couple of people were aware of heading into the event, but I wasn't necessarily 100% sure about that. However, this year, that expectation of there being those rewards was definitely there. And something that really upset me was that some people went to the event with the intention of losing so that way they could receive these really good rewards rather than going there, playing the game, getting good, and having a good time playing some competitive ass Warhammer or going for hobby or anything like that. Instead of doing that and trying to win awards with good effort put in, as well as plenty of fun games to be had, they instead went with the mindset that they weren't going to win any of that, and they would rather just lose and throw matches until they got last place and second last place. There were two teams in particular that did this intentionally, again, very much so intentionally, losing as many games as possible. And unfortunately, an incident occurred where one of the people that I know had to go up against this team, and it was really disappointing to see because a couple of my friends that went up against this team had some really bad times playing against them. What do I mean by this? Well, as any of you that are fans of Age of Sigmar would know, you have the main way of scoring the game, as well as then secondary objectives known as battle tactics. There were teams that were playing their games, having some fun, enjoying the experience, and then there was this team that decided that rather than play the game, they were going for last place and would verse people, not taking any battle tactics throughout their entire gaming experience, some of them even just not holding objectives, period, and then scooping after turn 2. It meant that a lot of the people that were in those matches ended up in a scenario where versing that team meant that they were doing nothing for almost 2 hours because they spent half an hour setting up only for the opposing player to scoop the game and leave, or try everything in their power to essentially not play the game so that way the opponent would just absolutely flog them in points and destroy them so that way they got lower on the scoreboard. And it was really, really a disappointing experience, and I'm sure that many of the people that went there had to verse one of these teams because there was two of them doing it, and it's just not fun when you pay good money to go to an event like this, upwards of $300 for the team as a whole to go to this event, And there are people out there actively trying to lose and basically give you a massively negative play experience where you spend 2.5 hours waiting for the next game because of the fact that they didn't want to play the game at all, or they wanted to just lose and lose hard. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of ways that you could do this by losing hard and doing it in a fun way. For example, go out and buy an army that is entirely steam tanks, get absolutely shitted on, and get last place, but have a fun time doing it. Go out, run 4 bloodthirsters and only 4 bloodthirsters, and then lose the game because you can't hold objectives, and then still play the game. At least have fun doing it. But these people weren't doing that. They were miserable piles of poo that decided rather than enjoying the experience, they would just make everyone else have a shitty one by scooping turn 2, by running their games basically where they just didn't even try, giving everyone free wins that aren't well-deserved fun wins and that finish so incredibly quickly that they just spend the next couple hours doing nothing. And it's not like it's game 3 every single time on day 1 where you can just leave and go home after the match. They're doing it game 1, they're doing it game 2, they're doing it game 3, they're doing it game 4 and 5, and if you're doing it in game 1 and 2, you still got to wait for the next game, so you can't just go home, so you're sitting around doing nothing for hours. If you're doing it on game 4, you got to sit around and wait for the game 5. If you're doing it on game 5, you got to sit around and wait for the award ceremony. So no matter what happens, these people are wasting everyone's time. They're ridiculous in terms of the way they're doing it because it's not sportsmanlike, it's a negative play experience. It's just in general a really shitty time for everyone involved. And what's more annoying about it is they weren't good sports about doing the whole thing in the first place. And when they came up to get their awards, were they not just the biggest actors I've ever seen, someone get them a Hollywood gig because they sat there and act so shocked and surprised that they lost the event, saying, "Oh, this is the second time it's happened. I can't believe it. Wow." When in reality, they were intentionally doing it from the very beginning, and it's honestly pathetic. I don't like it. I think it's an awful thing to do, and I think that this is a massive issue with having a good reward that is worth genuinely like some degree of value enough that some people would be shitty enough to do that rather than just going in and enjoying the tournament for what it is and having good sportsmanship. Those dollars spent engraving fancy glasses and giving out fancy glasses could have easily been spent on another lucky door prize or something else that was able to give back to those that are in the middle of the pack and are having much more of a good time and really pushing the spirit of the event, which is meant to be this hobby, fun, beer hammer style event where you go and have a bunch of drinks, kick some ass, and it's not really necessarily fully competitive, but it's not necessarily a fully hobby thing either. It's a nice blend of both with plenty of competitive players and hobby players alike coming to really show what the hobby's all about. Not intentionally losing, not being poor sports, and just putting on some facade so that way they can get a lost trophy. If you're going to do that, go have fun while doing it. Don't be jerks about it. I don't know, this was more of a rant than anything. I wanted to talk about it though because I find it just really deplorable in terms of the state that the hobby is in, if this is what's going to happen. I definitely think that this is mainly a problem with the actual people, but I definitely think that the events and other events going forward should not announce that there is a good reward or even provide a good reward for those that come last. I think it's funny to have the wooden spoon, and I think it should stay a wooden spoon, something that is entirely useless and not something to absolutely grind for. And even then, I think that that is still too much of a cult almost following of ideology that is like, okay, we got to get the wooden spoon because it's coveted and it's this funny thing. I don't think that that should be a thing either. So As a whole, I would love to see this change because that was a really disappointing thing that happened at Runex 2024. Like I said, though, I don't want to be entirely negative. The event was fantastic. The TOs did a great job when the event was actually being run. It was just leading up to it. We had a couple of dramas, as mentioned in the previous video. And then during the event itself, thanks to these two teams in particular really ruining it for a lot of people, meant that it was a very unfun experience, at least for one of those games for a lot of teams. Nevertheless, I hope you all have a fantastic time and you've had a great week. I will see you all in the next video. If you haven't already, please do leave your comments down below regarding what you think about this kind of a behavior. But more importantly, like if you like, dislike if you didn't, and please do subscribe. I've got daily YouTube content going up most of the time, unless there's something specifically in my way, which I'll hopefully not have too much of. But I will see you all in the next video, and if you haven't as well, check out my live streams where I do daily live streams. Much love, and I'll see you soon.